All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am excited for our guest today because we got someone that is oh so good at this. We are going to be talking with Stacy Curry today about talent succession planning for legacy and facilitating business exits. Stacy, thanks for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. So nice to share time and space with you and your audience. Thank you.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm excited for this. Um, God, so much to start with, but let's start back. So, Stacy, tell us a bit about your journey. You're a experienced leadership coach, excuse me, and what really brought you into that first of all before we start talking about succession planning?
Oh, well, okay. So I'll give you a little snippet. So my journey started with a hiring manager who brought me in and talk about talent succession, right? So she was promoted into a senior leadership position. And so she still would have been, she was my manager, right? But she got promoted. And so she was hiring for her position, right? And
Mhm.
leadership development. And I don't I talk about divine intervention by she extended a graceful invitation for me to join her and her team, and I got to learn from her, and it was in leadership development, and it was really, I would say, my first step into what learning and development knows as leadership development now, right? So I had been doing leadership development kind of quasi before that in nonprofit. And then when I applied for the job and she extended the invitation to come, it was just like game on. And
Yeah.
so one of the things, just real quick, one of the things that I quickly noticed in my time with her, and her name was Kathy Langley, and I'll give her a big shout out because she was one of the most effective leaders I have ever had the privilege to partner with, to learn from. Phenomenal, right? And it was what I was experiencing were managers, participants going through leadership development and having conversations with me after the sessions, after the training sessions, saying, "Hey, I've got this issue. I don't know what to do with it." And it wasn't counseling, it wasn't therapy. It was
Hmm.
something very different. And at that time, coaching was just not in its infancies, but definitely in its adolescence. So it was fairly new in the whole learning and development field. It was kind of a fairly new term, but it had some breadth to it. It had some meat to it. And because of these requests for assistance, for guidance, that led me down the path of leadership development coaching. And actually it's really, you could call it whatever you want. Coaching is really about helping us to really dig deep into our potential and identify our own answers and to trust our own answers. And a coach just facilitates that exploratory discovery with you. And I've been a coach ever since. So I became a coach in 2013, and I've just kept on track. I've just kept up with my learnings, my certifications, and it's just such a it's a special niche. It's a special field that I think so many of us are blessed to be a part of.
Yeah. So what do you say it's a special thing? What do you feel is you like the most about it?
It's the connections, and you and I talked about it right before we started, right? It's the connections with people who are in a transition, whatever that transition is. And in leadership development, it usually is from individual contributor to now they've been tapped for management or supervision, or you are a manager but you've been tapped for, becoming a director or a C-suite member of the team. And it's the transitions between, ooh, this was my authority and my impact before, but now it looks a little different. and I don't know what that is, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to navigate, you know, I'll say politics, and I'm not using that as a negative connotation by any means, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a new landscape. It's a different kind of conversations. It's a different kind of mindset. It's strategic thinking. And it's like, oh, I was a doer before, but now they're asking me to think at a strategic level and for the betterment of our company. And I'm not quite sure I know how to do that. And then, oh, by the way, I've got these two team members that are, you know, creating a lot of tension, and I don't know what to do with it, right? And they do know what to do with it. They just don't trust themselves, right? To really bring that out within them. And then if they try it and it's wonky, we go back. It's like the dip, right? Like when
Yeah.
we post something and we get into that dip and it doesn't work, we're like, retreat. Let's go back to our conditioned habits and behaviors. And those served us well up to this point, but it's not going to help us get to what is being asked of us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You said it well. They're connecting with people in transition. And in that transition, you just mentioned again what worked before, or the techniques, the things you used before are probably not going to work in your new role, or not as effectively.
Right. And or there's discovery of a different type of challenge that you're just not ready for,
Uh,
right? Or you might, as a contributor, individual contributor, you know, we might have been, and you've heard this before, and I'm sure many of your listeners have heard this before. You get promoted because you are a high performer,
yeah.
right? And it's great because you're a doer, you know how to get it done. Now with leadership, ooh, wait a minute, we have people, we can get work done through people. I don't know how to do that because I've always been the one to get it done. And what happens sometimes is new leaders unwittingly what they'll do is, you know, they may stifle development because they're so used to doing it themselves
Yeah.
that they'll just get it done, or they think that a member of their team is coming to them with a challenge and they're like, okay, I'm the hero, I can do it, I can fix it, instead
Yes.
of helping them to critically think through the problem and then tooling them up to do corrective action on that problem on their own and not them take the lead, right? And it gets into some really, really interesting dialogues and behaviors, and we get to unpack that. And it's so beautiful. And you know this to be true as well. When you can see the moment where they're like, oh my gosh, I totally get the connection. I totally see that I'm enabling my team to constantly come to me with problems because I've solved every problem. You know, and now I'm feeling frustrated because I have to solve all these problems. We don't realize that by our very own way of being, we are contributing to those things that cause us frustration. And so when you see that connection, they're like, oh my gosh, now I can begin anew. Now I can try different techniques, or I can cultivate new habits that will not only serve me but will absolutely serve my team for the betterment. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is that whole talent succession and building people up for the betterment of the greater good. And I can't say that enough. So if I repeat myself in that saying several times, it's because I truly do believe that it's we're helping people holistically and developing them to, yes, for the betterment of the company, but also for the betterment of them, so they
Yes.
have economic mobility, that
Mm-hmm.
they can go, they can stretch, they can do things that they absolutely are capable of doing it. But sometimes I think you just have to ask and develop them, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, now I develop other people, this is a beautiful thing, right?
Yes. Yeah, it really is. Because then when you see it start to happen, you described it so well. I wanted to just let you go there because so many high performers get promoted into leadership and they don't really make that transition. And you said it so well. They continue just solving everyone's problems when they really need to be helping people figure out how to solve those problems on their own rather than solving the problems for them, and then cultivating, as you said, the new habits that allow them to be better at staying out ahead of their team and really helping their team grow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that the whole transitioning, right, in terms of leadership progression and whatever you define leadership to be, whatever your career journey is, right? Because it doesn't
Hmm.
always have to be, a leadership position. You may take on a whole new stretch assignment in a whole different department, but it levels you up because you are developing new skill sets and you are developing your mindset, which I think is very, very important, right? And that's a big thing that we talk a lot about in terms of leadership development and coaching, and even in talent succession, is it's 99% mindset. It is.
Yes.
You know it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you started moving into this subject, and I love this because when we are in these situations where we really need to be working on our talent succession planning, what are some of the common things that you see people missing as I mean, because we're sitting here today. So first of all, let's back up a little bit because you work with IMEC Illinois. You are the Manufacturing Ascension Partnership, part of the Manufacturing Ascension Partnership for the state of Illinois. You're helping manufacturers do this. And I wanted to make that clear because I think manufacturers overall have a significant challenge that they've been dealing with for a long time, and it's only getting worse because we're not getting any younger. And this is talent succession planning because there's very few people I know, and I'll ask you this, that and then you can go into it, but very few manufacturing companies I step foot in anymore where you've got enough young people in there. And really, and we look at this talent succession planning for legacy and facilitating exits or whatever we want to do. What are some of the things that you say right off the bat that you see when you're helping people in manufacturers there in Illinois that they just aren't even touching?
Okay. Very important question. And I'm going to ask you the same question because I'd like for you to share what you see as well in your home state, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I will share this with a caveat. There is no shame in this, right? I mean,
Nope. Nope.
there's no, this is just simply where they are. And that's why they call us, right?
Yeah.
Because they know too that, hey, we need to develop some rigor in a certain area, or we absolutely know that we are in the midst of a culture shift,
Hmm.
and we don't know what that looks like, we don't know what that means to us, but we know that we're challenged, we're floundering in some areas, right? And so one of the things, Damon, that I see consistently is, and I love this, there's a lot of beauty to this. A lot of our manufacturers within our state are family owned, right? Or they
Hmm.
have that grassroots, right, upbringing, and the legacy is so rich, and their
Yes.
story is amazing. I mean, when
Yes.
you sit across from somebody, a business owner, especially manufacturing, sharing their story, you're just literally, you're blown away, you're in awe. And so many times I have to, kind of pick up my jaw because I'm just in awe of
Hmm.
the resiliency, right, that has brought them to where they are, and it's a prosperous company, and it's vital in the community. That is a beauty. And then the flip of the coin on the other side is, you let me know if you're seeing this too. The workforce that is blooming today, they want to know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know where you're going. Great story, but where are you going? Where are you going? And how are you serving the community? And what are you giving back socially? And what are you doing to, and I'm going to put it out there. What are you doing that is contributing to the betterment of our environment?
Mm-hmm.
And all of this. I mean, they want to see some, I think, right now, maybe we have this conversation a year from now and I might think differently, but what I'm observing, what I'm witnessing, what I'm hearing is the workforce coming in, they want to be a part of the future. And so many times when I walk into the lobby of any of our manufacturing clients, you'll absolutely see their archive, their legacy archive. But what is missing is, and here's where we're going. And we want you to be a part of that team. And here's how you can make a difference, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what they want. They want that connection to, this piece that I make, I want to know how it serves our customer. Where does it go? How does it help them improve their life, right? And what new technology are we on the cutting edge of? And
Mm-hmm.
right there, I will tell you, we got a workforce that's savvy, and we have some manufacturers that they know it's important, that they're getting there. But I don't know. I will say this, but I please, again, I say no shame. I don't know if it's fast enough, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we are in front of the change to lead the change, or if we're behind the change and the change is leading us. Because there's a big distinction there, right? We need to get
Yes.
in front of that, and we need to really see. And you know what? Here's another thing I will say is COVID's done. We're done. That
Yes.
we're several years, right? We're several
Yes.
years beyond that. We can no longer use COVID as I hasten to say excuse, but we can't just say, well, COVID. Okay, it happened. It was incredibly disruptive across our planet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We endured.
Yes,
We
we did.
endured. We did it, right? And here we are. And now I think we need to be very future focused.
Yeah.
And that happened. It happened. And I do not want to minimize the gravity of it at all, because it really impacted millions of people in big ways. So I don't
Yes,
want
we did.
to, I don't want to minimize that.
Yeah.
But I do think we need to start really thinking about, instead of that workforce, they don't want to work, or they're not loyal, they're not we no, they do want to work, but they want to work for something that is going places, going
Yeah.
somewhere. And that's the story that I think so many of our clients, of the business owners, that's what I help them to start sharing. Like, if you really want to get talent in the door, you got to share your story, not what happened 100 years ago. That,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're going to be
Yes.
like, okay, that's nice. What
Yes.
about what about today? Where are we going today?
Mm-hmm. Because they want to know what they're a part of,
Yeah.
what they're going to be
Yeah.
doing, how they're going to make the world different, even
How
if it's
they
just their little slice of world.
What are you seeing? Are you seeing something similar or something
It,
completely different?
and no, it's the same. I think it's the same just about everywhere. Manufacturing is just one of the cases where it happens. But I look in things like CPA firms. I look in legal law firms. I look, even it doesn't matter. Look at any home services kind of businesses. I mean, it's really hard to find younger people in business that have been intentionally recruited, intentionally
Mm,
developed,
mm,
and intentionally put into situations where they are and they know that they are going to be there is a bright future for them in these organizations. And I think you see it firsthand in manufacturing because it's it's easy in I should say it's easier in manufacturing in some respects, because if I'm a manufacturer and I have, say, 100 clients, and each client gives me $100,000 a year in sales, that's $10 million. It's a nice business. That's a big business in most realms. And that makes it much different than if I'm running an HVAC business. Then my average customer is going to spend about maybe $10,000 with me a year, or $5,000 with me a year. And I want to have a $5 million business. I have to have a lot more customers. I have to have a lot more things going on.
Yeah.
I have to be, I mean, just all that, what that drives in an organization is so much different.
Yeah.
And the kind of people that you need everywhere, from in the field to in the office to in your sales and marketing, it's all different. And I really think that the people that have taken the time, and you said this, to first of all themselves know where the business is going and answer the questions that weren't really that relevant to my age group, was how are we making the world a better place? What are we, what you said it before, it's uh, how are we serving our community? I mean, I cannot remember ever
Think
in the
about
last decade going, hey, we're going to go, clean up the park, or we're going to go do some community service,
that.
unless you were doing it on your own time because you were part of another group that was doing it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that was a big part of business. And many people are still living in that time. And
Mhm.
because you look at the leaders in manufacturing, a lot of them are older, and let's just be honest, they're older men. And it is a place where we've got to, as you said, get intentional about knowing what younger people want, and then building that first within ourselves so that we can accurately communicate, or effectively communicate that to them, so that when they walk through the door, they don't see what you talked about a moment ago is, yeah, it was nice 20 years ago, but what's tomorrow? They have to see, as you said, when they walk in the door, when they look at their website, when they look at their social media, and God willing, at least hopefully you got some social media. You have to project that future vision.
Mm, mm. Absolutely, absolutely. And you actually said it. You said it's being very intentional with developing, with knowing where you're going. And I think that is absolutely one of the things that the workforce coming in is saying, how am I going to be developed? But okay, so if I start here, what's my path? What
Mhm.
are my opportunities? They may not say what's my career opportunities, but they may say what what are my opportunities? And there is that, how can I make more money? And we do hear that from business owners. They want, more money, more money. Well, okay, let's put it in perspective right now. I mean, as a nation, you know, we're a lot of people are feeling the pulls of
Yep.
financial insecurities right now, right? And so I get it. I get that. And quite frankly, I mean, I'm part of the Gen Xer, and money's always been on my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always been, we need an exchange for the services, right? But
Yeah.
I get that. And so, but I do think that that's one piece of it, because when business owners are intentional with, like Kathy Langley was, she was intentional with developing me. Right. She spent time with me. She introduced me to people. We had a mentorship program. I mean, it was just a very holistic approach to development. And, I just came across this, and I'm bringing it up, but I can't speak in depth about it. but you said, intentionally develop early on. And I'm reading a little bit about the Swiss apparently have an apprenticeship program that
Yep.
is really, do you know about that?
Yeah.
I am fascinated by that because what they're doing is they're starting them young,
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
younger, not waiting until high school, but really getting them in and curious. They're developing that curiosity, and they're developing great relationships with communities, colleges, all kinds of business owners, and getting them really rallying them around this idea of apprenticeship early. And I think if we can get in there earlier and pique that curiosity, it's like our STEM programs, I'm sure, but I think that they are being very intentional with it. And I think that it is quite vast. I don't think
Yes.
it's just in this little area. I think it's even woven into their educational system there.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
wow, let's do that.
Yes.
But
Yes. And that's the kind of thing that we have to be doing today. And I see that across the United States. So one of the things I love to see in the manufacturing circles now is the STEM programs, getting younger people
yeah,
involved. I mean, Matt Goosey there in Wisconsin, I always like to use him as an example. His father's started the machine shop that he runs today. It's a long, I don't know, they've been in business 50 years or some darn thing like that. But they went to the extent of they actually built a I don't know, separate company or something with the high schools there, so that kids that are interested in machining can run machines, do work, do that as an apprenticeship program for that. Well,
yes,
that intentional work for him, and I probably off on this some, but his average age of employees was right either side of 30 years old.
yeah, yeah,
And think about how big a deal that is, because
yes,
you when you are doing this effectively, and if we could do this effectively across the United States, this would be a
mm,
huge thing. Because I've always thought about this, and this not always thought about this, but it was brought to my attention by Jeffrey Graham, a guy I used to work with a lot. Um, he said, Gen Xers and baby boomers, they thought that what they were doing was not good enough for their kids because their parents wanted them to do better and do that. So Gen Xers and baby boomers encourage their kids to go off to school and do something
yes,
else. But what they didn't realize is they really had a pretty good thing going in what they were doing in
yeah,
many cases. So we've got these businesses out here, and look at how many people have had every kind of walk of life person in manufacturing can have a wonderful career. No education, tons of education, computers, HR, you can be finance, I mean, there's so much leadership training, it's educational stuff. There's just so many different places you can fit in manufacturing. Well, we have a whole generation that grew up telling their kids, no, go to college and do something else.
don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't
don't
you
do
don't
it.
want
Don't
my
do it.
job. You don't want my
Yeah,
job. Just
yeah.
go. Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and I don't care if you are the person that's the welder on the line, if you're a leader, if you're whatever in those businesses, they were all saying the same thing.
yeah,
And that was wrong, because look at how many kids
yeah,
grew up, went through school. My son, 25 years old, bunch of his friends tried to go to college, didn't work out for him. Didn't know about manufacturing, didn't know about some of these other trades that they could have got into because their parents were doing this.
yeah,
And now they're sitting there trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do with their life.
yeah, yeah.
And you look at manufacturing, and you can look at any of the trades, really. I mean, my goodness, manufacturing is just one of the places these people can have wonderful careers. And you talk about talent succession, is we have the better we can attract the talent and intentionally show them the way, like you said, the easier we're going to solve these problems.
Mm,
It,
100%. I think I might have shared this with you before when we first met. about a month ago. But when I now that I've had some phenomenal client partnerships, I will see something that they have made, just being out in public, right? It's something that they made that is an awning over a restaurant. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I know who made that." And I will even get into a conversation with my friends who probably don't even want me to even talk about this, but do you know that so and so hand stitched this awning? This is what they do, right? That this piece here, this is where they got it, and this is what, and I know the woman that did that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's that's the story that I think the workforce needs to hear, right? Like everything out there that you see that is tangible that you use, that's a manufacturer. That's
Mhm.
that's a laborer. That
Yeah.
is somebody that's craftsmanship. That's somebody that put their hands on that and thought through that and put a lot of effort into that, right? And so that I think is the missing element of the story. And
Yeah.
I do think that absolutely there are people out there that are doing a great job with it, but that's really where I try to coach business owners to say, great legacy, love your story, don't ever lose it. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying don't ever bring that out.
Mhm.
That got you here, but now you've got to really paint the portrait of where you're going.
Yes.
That's what's going to bring them to the table, right?
Yes. Yes, and you hear some of these companies that do it well because when they weave their history into their future, I mean, you really can feel it. And that's where I think that some of these manufacturers have done a great job because I mean, because we've got manufacturers that are centuries old in the United States and have been
Yeah.
doing such good stuff. And you see them, like I said, some of them really understand it, and that I believe helps that talent succession planning because they're attracting these younger generations of workers. And then I believe that the last step of that is that intentional development, like you
Yep.
said, of these people, because we don't learn. Talent's one thing, technical talent is one thing, leadership talent I think it takes a different path of development. And that's where I see companies now spending more time is the intentional leadership development, where it was done a lot more haphazardly in the past because of the changing workforce and what people's expectations are. They expect that I'm going to have leadership development if you want me to be a leader. And a lot in the past, unfortunately, a lot of that was school of hard knocks. You just
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, so it's very interesting. So as you're doing this, well, first of all, I want to say a couple things. I've got a couple of comments here. I've been looking at them. Hey, Bava, thank you for stopping by today. James
Yeah.
Kunkel. Oh, James, great to see you today. James is
Mm.
a coding specialist. He is the
Oh,
man when it comes to yeah, I've never talked to anyone that's got the knowledge like that of him. I mean, you figure out what do I need to coat the hull of my tanker, kind of
he
stuff.
would know.
Yeah,
Call James.
if he doesn't know, he knows somebody that does know. That's for
That's
sure.
great. Nice shout
Yeah.
out.
But
Yeah.
this whole part about this talent succession planning, what are you seeing that's working really well for people when they're doing this and you're working with them and you're going, wow, this is coming around. I've started and we're moving into the future and this is what we're seeing.
Yeah. What does it take? What am I seeing? The the one thing that is consistent between those that pursue talent succession and those who want it but it doesn't get executed on completely is the leadership team absolutely values and knows what it's like to be a learning organization.
Ooh,
Mhm.
good one. Good one.
They must they embrace the value and the importance of in order for us to be prosperous as a business, we must remain relevant by learning, by being open, by not getting in our fixed mindset where we're great and we don't need to learn anything else because we're that fabulous. You have to, business owners have, and you know this, Damon, talent succession is a sensitive topic for
Yes.
many of our business owners and our manufacturers. And and I get that. We get that. We understand that. And so we approach it with a level of sensitivity and an understanding. However, the ones that really are set apart, the ones that do it well are humble, that they know that the workforce is changing. They know that leadership at the helm is no longer, and they know that they are feeling the angst of a culture shift, and they value learning and sharing that with their entire workforce, whether it's technical expertise, whether it's leadership, whether it's oh gosh, customer service, lean 101, whatever it is, or
Yeah.
advanced automation. I mean, it covers the gamut. But those are the ones that actually succeed because they value learning, continuous learning, and experimentation. They got to value experimentation,
Yes.
and and they'll see it through because they've got skin in the game. The ones that want us to come in with a predetermined solution and here's an apprenticeship program, the likelihood of them actually executing on that endeavor is pretty low, right?
Hmm.
Because it, the thing that you and I do, the space that we share in talent succession, it is so unique to the each company. It is
Hmm.
so unique to them. And talent succession takes on many tentacles. And so it's good to partner with people like you and I so we can guide them on best practices, or we can curate and co-create the things that are going to work for them, at
Yeah.
least to get them started, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I see. What do you see?
No, I think you've covered it well. I think you've covered it well. It's the biggest thing that I see is we tried it and it didn't work. And
Yes,
people, I mean, come
yes,
on. How many times did you fall down trying to ride a bike?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we forget this. And this is something I talk about a lot. We always forget how hard it is to get really good at anything, right? And if you're, it doesn't matter if you're a machinist trying to machine something, it doesn't matter if you're trying to ride a bike, do whatever, play chess. It takes a while. You're going to get beat. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do that. And we have to remember that. I think, as you said in this, you have to be humble and value experimentation and know you're learning, because this is not easy. Just put it right out there. It's not easy. It is generational gaps, trying to cross generational gaps. It's trying to cross gender gaps. It's trying to cross cultural gaps. There's all these things that you have to do. And it's not a one, as you said, and I think you said it so well. It's not a one size fits all. And like you said, a lot of people in business want you to come in and hey, give me your system and I'll take it and it'll go from there. And we'll go from there and we'll be fine. And there's not a system.
There is it. And by the way, Damon, as a CEO, I'm going to retire in at the end of the year, and we don't have any successor. Can you help me with that? Right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, no. This needed to be a conversation 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's the timing of it. You're so right. There's so many different dynamics that go into it, and that's why I think it's so important if if you are thinking about talent succession, reach out and talk to somebody now,
Yeah.
because if you wait, you're going to be behind the change, and that change is going to demand you to do something that you may or may not be ready to do yet, right?
Yeah.
So get in front of that and take the lead of it. Yeah.
You said it well. And if there's anything anyone learns from listening today, start yesterday because
Yes.
you're probably late already.
Yeah.
You got to think about this, right? You made a great example there of a CEO that wants to retire. And if we're sitting here today, it's the middle of 2024, just barely past the middle of 2024, right? We're in August. If I'm saying this about 2025, I'm too late.
A
If
hundred
I'm saying this
percent.
about 2026, I might be pretty good
Yeah.
if I'm lucky. Because what we forget about is, okay, where is this successor coming from, or successors, right? Even worse, I got a whole team. We all look like the same. We're all like, hey, man, I'm 5 years. We're all out, right? You may have a big job ahead of you. And if you haven't been intentionally bringing those people in, you may spend 2 years just trying to find the right people. And it is something that is rigorous. And it goes back again, you can't stop because it didn't work the first time. You got to keep going and keep trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whenever I hear that, I ask them, sometimes it's a go-to question. How many of you grew up with a landline? And a lot of people will raise their hand. How many of you don't have a landline today?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it is such important change. And it's so important to realize that workforce, and I have two younger kids, and I tell people, if you think the workforce is disruptive now, give it about 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Just wait till they come in, because that will be the very first generation that they call the screen generation, right? From the moment of birth, there's a
Yeah.
screen, right? And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I just think and the way that my kids learn is very, very different. And I thought, okay, this is going to be big. This
Yeah.
is going to be very big. And for a lot of our clients in manufacturing, one of the things that I'll ask them is, hey, just do best guess. How many people do you think on your workforce would be in line for retirement? Let's just say within the next 5 to 7 years. And when they start thinking about it, they're like, I'm working with one right now,
Hmm.
a third are going to depart. And that's big. And it's like, then skill up, talent up
Yep.
now.
Yeah.
Now.
Yes.
Internally, yeah.
Yes. And then when you're looking at it, if an owner wants to make an exit, if you want to succeed it to a next generation, you want to sell that business, this succession planning becomes even more critical because succeeding to a family member, you have to have you want to have the right team there. You want to be able to do that right. You want to sell it. You simply won't sell it without a good team. And it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen. So,
Doesn't
and people look at this, it's happened to us over the years for sure. People come in and they start looking at the team. They go, okay, everybody, you've got a bunch of people that are going to retire over the next 5 years, like you said. And that means I get to deal with that as the buyer. It's not a good thing. And it really has some negative consequences to it. So this,
Ooh, yes, yes,
oh
indeed.
yeah, it's huge, especially, we've
Absolutely.
even had the point of, if you've got multiple owners, like in a partnership setting in manufacturing, and you go, okay, this is the brain of the R&D, and this is the brain of the purchasing or supply chain, this is the CEO, and they all want to leave, you pretty much might as well just say, okay, let's hope we can get rid of it. Because it doesn't matter if you got $20 million in revenue or not, because what happens is, if you're big enough that an investment buyer is going to look at you, they're going to say, it's too risky. They'll either walk away, or they'll give you such a ridiculously low offer that's adjusted for that risk that you will never sell it anyway. So you've
Yes,
just put a chain on yourself to that business.
Yes, you did.
And
Yeah.
if you're a smaller business, people look at it just like I said, they're going to say, listen, I can't deal with a third of my workforce retiring over the next 3 to 5 years. We know it's hard to find people. And I'm not willing to take that risk. So they'll move on and go down to the next business and try to find that. It is this succession planning for legacy. First of all, is something I think that, I mean, you work so hard at your business. You need to take this on as hard as you did growing your business. And then you can facilitate the exits if you do it right.
Yes, you did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Stacy, it has been awesome talking with you today.
Oh, I enjoy you very much, Damon. Thank you so much. Let's keep this relationship going. I would love to
We
learn more from you and hear about your progress and the things that you're seeing out there. But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I love talking about talent succession. Love it.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Well, I want to say, first of all, if you got in late here and started out not from the beginning with Stacy, go back to the beginning. She had so many great comments and thoughts in the beginning about leadership training, development, succession planning. I think you need to go back there and just really start from the beginning and grab all that value that she dropped with us today. And I also want to thank James and Bobeth for being here today. Thanks for dropping the comments. Thanks for being there. On all you people that are listening but not commenting today, thank you. I can see we've got people on X, we got people on YouTube and other places. Thank you so much for being here today. Stacy, hang out with us a moment offline. We'll finish up. We will be back again. Oh, first of all, though, Stacy, where can people, if I'm a manufacturer in Illinois, how can I get a hold of you?
Oh, contact IMEC. So the Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center. Um, Absolutely. We have an incredible, incredible team at IMEC.
Yes, you do.
And yes, we do. And so we would be able to talk with you, get you resources. And just like you, Damon, I mean, I am a big advocate of people mentored me to get me to where I am in talent succession. I am so open to sharing tools and to get you anything to get you started, to get you thinking. So, yes, if you are interested in a tool or you want to read about it or you want to get an idea or a tip, we'll get it to you because I really believe in setting everybody up for success. This is a big endeavor, but we got you. We got your back. We are here to support you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Stacy, thanks so much. And like we said, if you want to talk to Stacy and some of the other great people at IMEC, Illinois, just check them out online. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can find
Yes.
them on the web,
Yes.
but find them, reach out. They will help you find the resources you need. Thanks, everyone. We're going to shut down for now. Stacy, hang out. We'll finish up offline.
Thank you.